You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy Gianlutis, and guys, if you checked out a video we posted a couple weeks ago, it was our guest right now, Shawn Rivers, interviewing me on his podcast, Growth by Shawn. Now, guys, we wanted to get together and put another message together for you because when the two of us, when our heads get together, we create something. And a lot of people reach out and say, hey, that really helped me. I needed to hear that. You guys kind of dive into these very insightful topics. So we wanted to get together and put together something new for you. So guys, I want to interview Shawn now because with your podcast that you started, it started in different areas where you wanted to talk to people, you wanted to learn yourself, but again, create that impact for others. But your story itself brings an impact in its own way. So let's dive into it, man. I appreciate having you here.
Thank you, Billy.
Of course.
I appreciate it. This is one of the first times I'm being interviewed.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm nervous, excited, all those kind of things.
Awesome.
But the thing is, with my story, this is something that I haven't opened up about.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are things that I've just kept to myself, and I was like, I'll get through this myself.
Yep.
And really, there's two stories to it. There's a story that happened, and there's a story that I told myself.
Yeah.
And those are the two things. So I would say the biggest thing for me and where I really started my journey of like who I am today is when I got my first DUI.
Okay. Yeah.
I was wrongly accused of a DUI.
Okay.
I was in college. I was at Bridgewater at the time. Yeah. And I was working over Christmas break. Mm-hmm. I worked as part of the event staff.
Gotcha.
And we would just like set up tables and chairs. Yeah. Super easy job.
Yeah.
But I was working over Christmas break, and it was 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, whatever. So I'm leaving, okay? And I have 2 grams of weed in my car. Okay. And I'm sure you know this, right by the train tracks, right where that food truck used to be.
Yeah.
You go out of there, and it's a right only.
Yeah.
I took a left, okay? Because if not, you got to go around the whole school.
Yeah.
And it's like an extra 10 minutes.
Good old Bridgewater.
So I go out of there.
Yeah.
I take a left, and it's 502, 503. Immediately, cop turns around, pulls me over.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go over there, and the cop comes over, and he's like, smells like weed in here. And I was like, Like, I'm like 18 at the time or so. And he ends up taking me out of the car. Yeah. I do a sobriety test. I walk in a straight line. I'm fine. Then I get up on one foot.
Yeah.
On the first foot, I went 60 seconds.
Okay.
Second foot, 20 seconds.
Okay.
And then I put my foot down.
Yeah.
Immediately arrested me.
Really?
And that was it.
Wow.
That was when my life changed.
Okay.
And I didn't know it at the time. I was like, oh, whatever, I got arrested. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
My friend came and bailed me out. It was $40. He drove me all the way back to Swansea and went in, told my parents, I was like, hey, I need $40. My friend just bailed me out of jail. And they were like, oh my God, okay.
Yeah,
so from there, what happened was I had all these consequences that happened. Yeah. What I didn't realize, I played the victim in that story for the longest time.
Okay.
Because I blamed that cop, I blamed the system, I blamed everyone else for my own actions. The thing that I have began to learn is that I can control my actions, I can't control the consequences.
I get you.
I took the a wrong left on right. You know, that was me. Yeah. If that didn't happen, if my actions right there didn't happen, I wouldn't be talking about it right now. Okay. And it took me a long time, but like a lot of the consequences were I didn't have my license for 2 years. Yep. From 18 to 20. Right. Pivotal, like you just got your license. Yeah. Right. You know? Yeah. So I had a girlfriend that was driving me around, my mom was driving me around, my buddy was driving me around and walking places. Yep. They end up kicking me out of housing. So they expect me to commute without having a license. Yeah. So I'm sleeping at the girlfriend's house, a buddy's house, park bench a night or two, like just at school.
Yeah.
I would pack a bag for the week and I would head out there.
Yeah.
And so then I did a lot of community service. I had to go to these classes where more or less they treat you like you're a drunk.
Okay.
Like just alcohol did this to you, you don't need it, and just a lot of projections that are happening. And once I got through that, I really didn't learn my lesson over the next few years.
Okay.
I was like, oh, like screw them, like I hate cops, like all this stuff. But it was my own victim mentality, and that's why I believe I got another one.
Yeah.
I got another one just a couple years later.
Okay.
But like I know that was my fault.
Okay.
And that's an ongoing thing. I don't think I can really like chat about it right now. When it's over with, well, that'll be another discussion that I'll be able to say.
I get that.
But what I think happened and why I wanted to share this story is because I'm creating my own hero's journey, is what I really believe.
Yeah.
And so I don't think if that had happened, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be working on myself every day.
Yep.
I wouldn't have found different mentors, people that are there to support me.
Yep.
And that really, it started my life.
Yeah.
That's
phenomenal.
That's a big part of my story.
I love that. And I didn't know any of that about you.
No, and we've been friends for years.
Right? No, 100%, dude. And like to give people background on that, I met Shawn in the gym where you were personal training people and whatnot. I just built the connection. That's when I first came onto your podcast, and then so on and so forth, connected. I've seen you at my workshops. We've had insightful conversations. Seminar will end. I'll talk to Shawn for another 2 hours about like some very deep topics, and it's incredible. And I say it's incredible because you come into so many different areas now like a sponge. You're trying to absorb as much information as you can to see what will connect to you, what you can learn from, what you can give to someone else. So that perspective in itself, I believe wholeheartedly, I wish we all had in the world. Because a lot of us, we kind of get attached to what we think is going to be the route in life, and then we do not let anything else in because that's the only result we need. And then life will come and rock bottom happens, it will knock us down. You mentioned the hero's journey, but there's another side to the hero's journey called the Crucible, where the Crucible, and people might be going through right now, you might have made it out of it, I know I've been through it, where life needs to kind of break you down to your foundations to rebuild you for the hero's journey, where you now have a new perspective because you went through so much pain, you went through the heartache, the struggle, whatever it is, and the good times weren't really there. And I feel that the Crucible comes together because life is like you're meant for so much more. So to connect to your story right now, where you feel you are stepped into the hero's journey, you're essentially realizing like, I needed to kind of go through that DUI. You might be dealing with stuff right now. We will always be dealing with stuff. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, but life will try and teach you these lessons to make sure it's like you could be over here. Life wants to pick you up and put you on the track you're supposed to be on. And that's the beauty of all things work together. Like, and you can even say that, you just said it right now, where it's like, if that stuff didn't happen to me, my hero's journey wouldn't have begun. It's incredible. Yeah, that's awesome.
It really wouldn't have. Like, the thing is, like, for me, there was always the story that I told myself, and how I would relate it back to, like, growing up. I had a really easy life growing up.
Okay.
Like, my parents are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, nothing against them. Like, they did the best that they could. But we were just comfortable. We were a middle-class family.
Yeah.
You know, my parents were together. They still are.
Yeah.
I had,
awesome.
I have two sisters.
Okay.
And plenty of love going around the family, you know, little arguments here and there. But I never had a time where I was really challenged. And what I think that this happened to me for two reasons.
Yeah.
You know, not that it happened to me, but I put myself in that situation for two reasons.
Yeah.
One, because I needed to know what it was like to get through hard times.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I didn't go through that, I don't think I would have known how it is to go through a hard time yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe something would have happened later in life, and then I would have started more of my self-development, personal development journey a little bit later in life, which that would have been the path for me.
Right.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know? And then the other thing that I think it was what was I going to say? Or we can just leave it at that.
No, and
I don't know where I was going to go.
That's all good, and I completely get you, and that we need to understand that hard times come not to break you, but to remake you, to show you how strong you are. Mm-hmm. And we posted a message. I think it was our last week's once a week message, essentially helping people understand that their story itself is the most captivating, impactful story that they could ever tell anyone. And we're going to read every book in the book. You might listen to a podcast to hear someone's story, but truthfully, in your own life, it does not compare to what you're writing right now. Mm-hmm. And when we understand that every single pain that we went through, the struggles, the challenges, everything like that, bring with them a lesson that we can then move forward on. Once you learn the lesson, you pass the test. So the challenge stops. Mm-hmm. Another challenge will come, but you just gain so much strength to make sure you have everything you need in your tool belt, your toolbox, to make sure you can get through that next challenge. And that's what your story exemplifies. Yeah. And you take it and you run with it now. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of it. Like I've said a couple times, but you come into situations like a sponge wanting to learn because there's so much knowledge out there. I think we've talked about before where people kind of choose their, I guess you could say, perspective on the world or values. You asked me before what my values are, but people, what their values are, but what their essentially frame they're going to look at the world through. You do a very good job that I think a lot of people don't necessarily give time to, of taking in every single frame of the world, because why not learn from everyone? That's exactly what I see in you. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
It's been challenging. And I'm going to go back to one thing because I actually remembered that second point.
Okay. Yeah.
The second reason that I think that I put myself through all of that, whether it's subconsciously or as this astral warrior, as like my soul needed to go through this, to help other people that have gone through the same thing.
Yes.
I know what it's like now. Yeah. I can relate to you.
100%.
And now there's a whole different group of people that maybe it's alcohol or drug related, that I can go and connect with them on a deeper level.
100%.
It's not just me saying, oh, well, you know what, you're going through this. Yeah. I don't really know what it's like, but I know what it's like. Yeah. I know what I've been through, and I can help you, guide you through everything that I've made it through. Yep. I have made it through. Everything that I've gone through, I have made it through. Yeah. Is what I should really say. Yeah. Go back to your question like a sponge and perspective on life. This took me a long time, but what ended up happening for me was developing a level of empathy. Okay. And that word basically means to me the care for others, no matter what they're going through. Yep. And how I relate this to my everyday life, and the reason that I'm such like a sponge, is I read in a book, and I don't recall which book, but what happens is when we look at our perspective on life, I only see it through my lens. I only see it through what's going through my head. Yep. Okay. You go onto a train, and there is a man sitting there with his 3 kids that are running around the train. Yep. All I see is a man that can't control his kids. Okay. All right. You go up to that man, and you say, "Why can't you control your kids?" And he'll say, "Well, we just put our wife down." And that is something that no one knows what I'm going through. Yep. Okay. No one sees their perspective but me. Yep. And now that I can be like, oh my God, I've felt like that. Yep. Like, not to the point where I have to put to that extent, but I can look at different people's views and perspective on the world and at least try to understand it. Yeah. Okay. This can even be like a funnier example of, hey, you want to explain to me that the world's flat? Sure. Right. You know what? I may not believe it, but you know what? If you believe it, you just see the world differently than I do. It's true. All right? Yeah. And maybe it is correct, maybe it's not correct. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever know. I'm not a scientist. You know? Yeah. But if you can go and explain your perspective to me about how the earth is flat, then I can go and say, okay, these are actually a couple of points that I agree with. Yeah. And these are a couple of points that I didn't view the world this way. Yeah. So building that empathy for others and just caring about what they have to say and their perspective and how they see the world is why I talk to so many people and why I want to go and learn everyone else's perspective. When I started the podcast, it was, all right, I'm going to go and learn from people that are more successful to me. And now it is, I want to talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Because even someone that's quote unquote below me, I can learn something from
100%.
them. I can learn something from them because they're smarter than me
Yeah.
in some aspect.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I focus on is
it.
being able to learn from someone else.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. And I love that. And I connect very much with that. When I started my speaking career and really kind of moved forward and started taking these steps for myself, one thing that always rung in my head, and I would tell this to parents of clients that I had, I would tell this to people in their 60s, everyone across the board that I now use in my messages now, you are never too old to learn and never too young to teach. And that came to me when I was mentoring like ages 7 to 21, but young kids in like the inner cities. A 7-year-old could teach me something I never knew. So why would I block myself off just because they're 7? You know, if they could teach me something, I don't care if it's something like, I don't know, that happened on a TV show, whatever, like an insightful thing that they grasp and learn from. I'm learning how I can help them through whatever they're going through. They're teaching me on something you never know I might have in my back pocket later that I needed. But to have yourself to see the world in an open lens allows you to really take in what this world is all about. Yeah. And I think nowadays more than ever, we close ourselves off to the world because there's a lot of stress out there. People and fear is a factor. You know, if we try and see the world through a lens of love, you're open to people as you do. If you see the world through a lens of fear, you're more often than not going to close yourself off from other people's perspectives. And that connects back to what we started on with the victim mentality. If you see the world through a victim mentality lens, you more often than not are going to close yourself off from people that might actually have something to give you or bring to the table or help you in some way because your eyes are always down. The blinders are on because that's your frame of I'm the victim. Well, if you're the victim, you're never going to be the victor. You know? And that's the beauty of your story is that you're now open, which I think, again, more of us need to be. Yeah.
I think what it comes down to, I can touch on the victim mentality, which I'm huge on, first off. And then just like we were saying, where we can learn something from a 7-year-old, just like we were talking about earlier, how I'm substitute teaching right now.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm working with, all week, I was with the behavioral issues for kids. You know, just have trouble paying attention. They might need a little more structure and discipline in their life for sure. But I can learn something from them. You know, I sat down with them, and these are 12, 13, 14-year-old kids where they're screaming and they're running around the classroom and they don't want to behave. But like, the thing is, what I believe happens is we get a projection from someone else. Okay? Someone told these kids, you're in the stupid class, you know? And when I sit down there and talk to them, once they began to trust me a little bit more, they're like, I'm in the stupid class. I'm stuck here. I hate it here. And I'm like, do you want to get out? And they're like, yeah. You know, a lot of them don't actually want to be there. What happens is that someone puts them in this box and then they believe it. And every single day, what happens is over and over, they just continue this pattern because someone else is telling them that, nope, you need more attention. You can't read. You can't write. And we just believe it. That's it. And so when we can rework some of those words, okay, I can't do this. I don't know how. No, you know how. You can do this. But you have to believe it.
100%.
And then you have to do it. In order to, I believe that our words create a story. The story that we tell ourselves creates our identity. Our identity dictates our behaviors. You know, we can look at Andrew Huberman, who's a huge name, much smarter than I am in many areas. He believes you change your habits and then you will change your beliefs. I think it's the other way. I think you change your beliefs, change your habits. You know, if I'm going out, what we were talking about cheat meals earlier, right? If you told yourself, I can't have this because I'm on a diet. Or if you say that versus I don't eat like that, they're very different.
I get that.
You know, you're an unhealthy person that's trying to stick to something that you don't actually believe at your core. You don't believe you're you don't believe that you're a healthy person. You don't believe that you deserve to have the body that you want. Versus someone that believes that they're a healthy person, and that will dictate their actions of why they're eating healthy. It's not that they can't have it. No, I don't eat that.
I get that.
Because I'm a healthy person.
Right.
You know, it's not that I can't have it. No, I don't want it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I think a lot of us struggle with. We create these identities for ourselves, and subconsciously, 70% of your subconscious is going to run the show.
And 100, I get that.
You know?
Exactly. And I agree with you on that. And I believe they work so hand in hand together. Personally, I don't think you could ever say if it's your habits that lead the way or if it's your beliefs, because they work so hand in hand with each other.
They do.
And, you know, getting to coach so many people and work with so many different people from all different across the world, for that matter, you really start to understand what are the beliefs we stand on. And if we're trying to create a new result, we're trying to create new habits, like, yes, you have to put habits in place that help you get there. But if your internal belief will always be, I'm never enough to achieve whatever it is, you're always going to build your own walls of the habits. To be disciplined in those habits creates such a more empowering belief. So to go up to a new client and tell them, or someone struggling for that matter, like, hey, you are enough, it helps them in that moment. To help them create the habit of telling themselves, I am enough, on a daily basis, and then you have situations in life that will create themselves and manifest themselves that show you are enough for you, creates the internal belief that you can then stand on. Because a lot of people now, it's like, all right, I want $1 million. And you start to tell yourself, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire. Like, you will have a belief that you're a millionaire. It's not there yet. And that will start to create a wall for them, because they're like, well, I believed it, why isn't it here? But now your belief just became, all right, well, it's not going to happen. But if you're telling yourself I'm a millionaire, and then you set out the habits to create that wealth in your life, it will get to you. No doubt about it, it will get to you. But that's why I think habits and beliefs, they go so well together. I wish and I hope that people, I say this to parents, when you're raising your kid, you can build them on a belief system that is strong so they never have to change it. That is something that sadly may never happen in this world to every single kid, because we go through trauma when we're younger, we go through negative experiences, we go through this frame of the world that changes our perspective as we get older, where our belief systems might be limiting us from achieving the results we want, which is then, as a coach and a speaker, whoever it is, and you're well on your way to becoming a coach in yourself, it's like stepping into that, realizing, all right, where do we have to kind of remove these limitations so you can believe in yourself again, so you can then have the willpower to create the habit and move forward on the habit. But, you know, we were talking about this earlier in the aspect of cheat meals. It's like, to be disciplined enough to stick to your diet, it's discipline, people think, is the toughest battle. It's not. Discipline becomes the easiest thing when you see a speck of your result. Even if it's a speck of your result, you realize, oh my goodness, the process works. My habits work. I feel good. My belief is now that I feel good. My belief is this is working. So you have more motivation and dedication to see it through to the finish. How dedicated and consistent are you when the other aspects of the world come in and say, like, hey, turn away from that. Come to this. Well, is your internal belief so strong in yourself? They're like, nah, I'm good. Or are you going to give in? So it's a push and pull effect with the habits and the belief systems. It's powerful. One of
my favorite just small quotes, I don't know where it's from. Discipline creates freedom. You know, and with many jobs that I've had in the past, I mean, I've had 100 jobs or something, you know, but there's such a lack of discipline with them. And I thought that having freedom would, I can do whatever I want here. You know, but no, it's discipline that creates the freedom to have the life that you want. Not freedom creates the discipline. You know, you're not going to be free by just all of a sudden having freedom. When you talk about behaviors and your identity, your beliefs, and how those are all intertwined, I love that. But I think this is where we can differ a little bit, which is great. I just think, and I could be wrong, I could be right. I don't know, but this is what I believe.
Yep.
And I'll preface this by talking a little bit about like Kobe.
Okay.
Kobe is my all-time favorite. I wish that I could have met him, interviewed him, sat down for dinner with him. Like I had it written in my notebook since one of the first podcasts. That's who I'm gonna interview.
That's awesome.
And it didn't get to happen, but that's all right.
Yeah.
But so much of his game talks about the same thing that I am relishing, where it's what happens is my perspective could be wrong, but I'm going to do it as best I can with what I believe. And no matter what I believe, that's what I'm going to do. And that's why I think we differ a little bit with the habits and identity and beliefs, where I think that you need to change the belief first. You can change the habit, and in turn, it will change the belief. But I think it's going to move so much quicker and more fluently if you can change the belief, change your identity, and that will dictate how the habit changes.
I get that.
You know? Yeah. Whereas if I just tell myself, I don't want to do this anymore, like removing a habit, because removing a habit can be just as beneficial as gaining a habit.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And so trying to get rid of those, I can't do this, I don't want to have this, your reticulating activating system. If I'm saying that right.
Reticular activating system.
Reticular activating system. It's going to put things at the front of your mind that you're thinking about. I literally used this in class the other day. I said, don't think of an elephant. And I said, what is the first thing you think of?
Right.
An elephant. I don't want to go to, one of the kids was struggling, I don't want to go to science. I said, all right, why don't you want to go to science? She said, I don't know. And I was like, so you don't even know. You're just telling yourself that you don't want to go to science. What's happening is that in the front of your mind, you're creating this story about how much you hate science. Where then we started to rework that story of, I don't want to go to science, but what do you want? Let's talk about what you do want. You want to get out of this classroom. You want to be more of a scholar. You want to be more educated. So let's rewrite that story of, I don't want to go to science, and little by little, we change that story into, I want to go to science because it will help me get out of this classroom. And when you reframe it like that, your behaviors will start to change. You know what? I'm going to give a little bit of effort in science now. And you have to think about it. You have to have the discipline of it. You have to have the belief of it, and you have to have the habit. It's all connected there.
It is definitely connected. And I see the slight difference. I also look at it where, in how you describe it, it's in a sense the tip of the iceberg. You need to go through that process regardless. So it's not even the sense that it differs. As you worded it, it's the front. The immediate problem at hand is, I don't want to be in science class. So then you go through this process to change the front. All right, now I can come to this classroom. In deeper areas of life change, not just a classroom, it's no longer the front problem, it's what's in the back. What is my identity that I was built on? My identity is built on all these belief systems that, from me being raised, from my experiences growing up, from DUI, whatever it could be for anyone watching right now or listening right now. So if that's the back stuff, you have an unconscious playback in your brain telling you, in your nervous system literally, telling you all of this belief systems and identities and habits, which is why you are the way you are. So if we start to ask the question, why do you do what you do? And you get to these unconscious, really deep beliefs like, oh, I never thought of it that way. You gave some experience before we started recording where you had a great retreat and everything. You guys, you talked about what we talked about. We wanted to dive into that. But you started to see different perspectives, which allowed you to look at yourself differently. You started to do actual internal work, writing it down and everything, that started to see experiences you had differently. So you're now diving into the unconscious mind. And when you dive into the unconscious mind, you're going to find stuff where it's like, whoa, didn't think of that. Well, why don't we think about it? Because we put layers on layers in life thinking that this is the way we need to be. And I see it in myself. I've spent probably the last 3 to 4 months really diving into my own internal work, because I'm like, what's holding me back? And then I find out that there were experiences I had when I was 4 years old.
I'm so
like literally that created my belief of the world. Unconscious. But now I'm doing the internal work to make sure those beliefs, like, I'm I'm not a 4-year-old kid anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm 30 years old, moving forward in the best part of my life, feeling great, loving everything that I do, moving forward in the goals that I set for myself. I don't have to have the fear that 4-year-old kid had.
Mm-hmm.
But when a trauma happens at that age, that becomes your identity, your outlook, your belief system, your lens for the world that you see things through. And if you don't take the time to peel that back, to go from the front to the back and really realize, like, oh, that's what it was, to do that work, you just create a life change where your entire lens for the rest of your life has been changed to where now you move forward, and that front process needed to happen so you can get to the back. Mm-hmm. So it's not that it differs, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I'm so happy that you went that direction, because the work that I'm getting into, learning about words, story, breath, story work as a whole, is what we call it. But it's those subconscious acts, just like you were talking about, where something may have happened, just like you, when you were 4 years old, but it was so far away that you don't even remember it.
Exactly.
Okay? And then once you do the digging, you can say, oh my God, was I believing something about myself just because of this?
Right.
You know, one of the stories that I wrote out the other day for myself was, or the other week rather, was back in high school. I played football. I really wasn't that good.
Okay.
Honestly. I was bad. I was really bad.
I
mean, I was the starter my senior year. That's the only time I really ever played besides freshman year.
Okay.
And we went 0-10.
Okay.
You know, we were terrible.
Yeah.
But I wrote out this story about how I was not the captain. And I think, first off, when you're writing down a story, you should title it because it gives it more meaning.
Yeah.
So I wrote, I'm not the captain. That off season from junior year to senior year, I worked the hardest I have ever worked.
Yeah.
That I dropped 20 pounds.
Wow.
That off season.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happened was I was becoming a leader.
Yeah.
And I really took a lot of kids under my wing. I showed up. I became a really, really powerful, strong individual.
Yeah.
Okay. Not just physically, but mentally.
Right.
I was like David Goggins. I'm carrying the boats.
That's awesome.
You know.
Yeah.
And what happened was we went to vote for captains, and I voted for a couple of my teammates. I didn't vote for myself. Just I didn't want to.
I get that.
But I really felt like I deserved to be the captain. I one of the captains, not the captain, one of the captains. I didn't think it mattered my play because I wasn't that great.
Yeah.
But the work that I put in and the leadership ability that I had to bring these young men together, I really felt like I deserved that. And what happened was once I wrote out that story, read it, used some breathing with it, slowed it down, looked at it, and created sentences of what this really meant to me.
Yeah.
To me, it meant that it doesn't matter how hard you work, that everyone else will dictate how your life goes. And that's what I believed. I believe subconsciously that is what I thought for a long time.
Yeah.
So why even work hard? You know?
Gotcha.
So I went to even through my college years, I was like, I think that what happened was subconsciously, you know what, I don't need, why even work hard?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to pay off anyways.
Right.
I believe that my hard work didn't pay off.
Wow.
And I was playing the victim. I was like, you know what, I controlled my actions, but I couldn't control the consequences.
Wow.
And I blamed everyone else for it.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I should have been up there. I was ready to walk off that field the day that they announced them.
Wow.
And I was like, no. But I think that, you know, a group of other individuals just didn't think that I was ready, and maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was. Who knows? But it doesn't mean that my hard work wasn't for nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that for a long time, I believed that my hard work was for nothing.
Wow.
You know, and I think that subconscious story that I told myself was something that dictated a lot of my identity and behaviors that I didn't know about until I wrote it out.
Wow.
You know,
that's insightful, but that's extremely impactful. The work itself, I love that. Yeah. You know, and I understand the aspect of giving it a title and whatnot, and giving it a title to go back into your mind kind of gives you the anchor point to stay focused on. So if you write that out, I love that. And just for you now to, I'll ask you this, but what you do with that story after it to make, it's a healing process in itself for everyone listening, everyone watching right now, to write that out, to take it out of here for good, you have it here. Yep. To either throw that away, or to write out your new story that you stand on.
That's what it is. It's writing out the new story.
100%.
You know, it's one thing to just see it and be an observer of it. It's another thing to rewrite it into my hard work pays off. I wrote out hard work does not pay off. That's what I wrote underneath that story. And then I rewrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it. And I became my hard work pays off. Because it didn't matter the actions of everyone else. It mattered what I believed.
I love it.
And I believe that my hard work pays off. Hard work pays off. You know, and it just took me to writing that story to get that out of my mind.
That's awesome.
You know, so it's just about like the self-belief, your belief system, how you show up for yourself, how you believe that you're enough, whether you believe you are enough, because I think everyone is enough. Every single person is enough in their own unique way.
100%.
They just might not know it yet.
Exactly.
That's it. I just think, and like, do I have the perfect body that I want and deserve? No, but I haven't worked enough for it yet. That's all. You know, and as I continue to work hard, it will show up for me.
100%.
You know, I always use the body as an example, just because one, it's easy. It's something that I know
I'll have one
now. You know, like so it's something that people are able to relate to.
100%.
You know, so easily. So
I agree with it. I think that's such a very impactful message in itself. Like, you might not be there now, but you will, as long as you believe it and then take the steps necessary. 100%. I agree with that wholeheartedly, Shawn. And I think that's such a great point to kind of close this out on, because I believe that people can really sit on that and think for that for themselves. Whether you take the story aspect Shawn has described that he did, do that for yourself. Like, literally, if you have the, I'm not going to say if you have the time, because I know you have the time, you know, grab a piece of paper, whether it's today, tomorrow, sometime this week, and dedicate, could be 15 minutes, could be an hour, could be whatever it is. Grab the pen and the piece of paper and write out a story. I think that's incredible. But also at the same time, what I love to do is write out your affirmation. You know, if the title of that story is I am not the captain, write out how you are the captain. Because to connect all that together now, as we close this out, I'm going to pass back up to you in a second. To have the title of that story, I'm not the captain, that's how you used to believe. But then to realize now that you are the captain of your own story, your own ship, and where you take that ship and story, you're the leader. So to now believe that as that internal belief you can stand on, that strength you can stand on, whatever you decide for yourself will happen because you're at the forefront. And I love that. So guys, write down that story, write that information. And before we close out, Shawn, what is a lasting message you want to leave with them? And also, where can they find you?
Lasting message I want to leave with everyone. I love that question. I'm going to say to leave. This used to be my message. This is what I'll say. My message used to be to leave everyone else in a better place than you found them. But the thing about that is that you can't, okay? Because you can't control everyone else. So the lasting message for me has become better me, better everyone. I thought for a long time it was better everyone, better me. You know, you are who you surround yourself with, which is part of it, sure.
I get that.
But I was trying to change everyone for a long time. And it didn't, it's you change you. And then you change everyone.
Right.
You know, so
That's
that's the message that I want to give.
That's
Better
awesome.
me,
Yeah.
better everyone.
Awesome.
Where you can find me is Instagram at Growth by Shawn. Shawn, just sound it out, SHAWN. And then YouTube, if you just type in Growth by Shawn Podcast, or just type in my name, Shawn Rivers, you will find me. So those are the two places right now.
Phenomenal.
And we've got some coaching coming up soon. I got a couple more courses that I want to go through, a couple more stories that I want to work for myself. And then once I feel like I'm ready, I'm going to give everyone I know a free session. And then go from there.
That's phenomenal.
It's going to be powerful.
He wants to create an impact, everyone. By all means, follow him on Instagram, subscribe to his YouTube channel, because as much as I've been on there, he's got a lot of great guests. And for what he tells me, he's got some very impactful guests on the way. So guys, go over there, subscribe to him, follow him, do the same for us. If this message impacted you in some way, or when we were talking about a specific message, you're like, you know what, that could help so-and-so, that's a direct sign to you to share this message to them, not for the sake of sharing who we are, but to help them with the message that we talk about. Because at the end of the day, that's what Once a Week is here for, to help you, to help whoever it is, move forward into the rest of their week, but to help them heal, grow, thrive, and move forward into wherever they want to go. So guys, please share this message to whoever it might be. Hit that thumbs up button below so we can get that number going and share this to more people. But also subscribe if you have not, guys, because we just broke 5,000 subscribers, and I'm sitting there like, that's phenomenal. We want to help the world, but let's get that number even going higher, guys. So hit that subscribe if you're not even yet. And if you or anyone you know is in need of a coach who can help or step in these areas discussed today, guys, go to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. You can set up a free call with me. I'll be right there for you. But again, reach out to Shawn, guys. If you have questions, he will be there in a heartbeat because he wants to help people. He wants to hear your story because he learns from, I said it, he's the sponge, guys. But phenomenal, Shawn. I thank you so much for being here, brother.
Appreciate you, Billy.
Yeah,
Really.
Awesome. Seriously. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Phenomenal, dude.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on